I'm honored to have you here, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Werdersch. We hope you find it enlightening. Werdersch is a subdialect of Low Prussian, which itself is a subdialect of Low German. This dialect is spoken in Poland and was spoken in the former province of West Prussia. Werdersch is closely related to Nehrungisch and Plautdietsch. Its name derives from the which are between and between Vistula, Szkarpawa, Vistula Lagoon, and Nogat. It also was spoken west of Vistula River. The dialect spoken in the Werder at that time is very similar to the dialect of Molotschna. The distinctive features of Molotschna-Plautdietsch as opposed to Chortitza-Plautdietsch are given at Plautdietsch varieties. Its eastern border was to Oberländisch, a High Prussian variety. As we move forward, let's uncover the untold stories and fascinating intricacies of history. Werdersch developed after Dutch-speaking immigrants from the Netherlands moved in the 16th century to the region where Werdersch is spoken. Euro-Malbuski was divided linguistically into the respective area of Werdersch and Nehrungisch, the former related to Molotschna-Plautdietsch, the latter related to Chortitza-Plautdietsch being part of Nehrungisch. Half of the immigrants were Mennonites, the other half were Protestants. Though not all were from Holland, some were German colonists. They were all referred to as Hollanders. Many of the Mennonites spoke Low German. The early Anabaptists from the province of Friesland spoke Frisian. Groups of Flemish Mennonites and Frisian Mennonites were early arrivals. They later also continued on to Russia. The difference between these two groups was religious rather than ethnic. The Frisian parish of Orowski Pol Orloferfeld merged with the Old Flemish parish of Vistula Lagoon. The Old Flemish parish of Werder later became the four parishes of Rio Rozenort, Sionik Noedwardowski Tegenhagen, Vistula Lagoon and Yorkie Fürstenwerder. Elbing had an Old Flemish congregation. The Old Flemish parish of Werder gave rise to the Frisian parish of Basis Trofimawide, also known as the Waterlander parish. Catherine the Great called some of these Mennonite immigrants further east to Russia. Most of the founders of the Molotschna colony and the Chortitza colony were Flemish Mennonites who spoke Werdersch. A variety in Molotschna not being part of Molotschna-Plautdietsch was the one of Waldheim, Nadenfeld and Alexander Wall, originating from an area near Wiesy in Poland. Both of these colonies were in Russia, now Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Ukraine, and were the origin of much of the modern-day Russian Mennonite diaspora. Orlov Mennonite Church in Molotschna Mennonite settlement, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Ukraine was the oldest congregation in the settlement. It was called Orlov Halbstadt Congregation, after 1877 as Orlov Halbstadt Neukirch Congregation, until 1895, when Halbstadt also became independent. Thereafter it was called the Orlov Neukirch Congregation. Most residents of the following villages of the settlement were members of this congregation: Orlov, Teig, Lumenort, Rosenort, Neukirch, Friedensruh, Tegerweide. Frisian Mennonites in the early days of Chortitza colony were in the minority in this mainly Frisian Mennonite colony, living in Kronsweide, Schingarten, Kronstaten and Ähnlich, strictly separate from the Flemish Mennonites. The Großgemeinde was the Flemish mother church of the Molotschna, known as the Olaf Peterschigen Halbstadt Church. Kleingemeinde was founded later. Großgemeinde was renamed to Littner Peterschigen Mennonite Church. Evangelisch Mennoniten Gemeinden was a group of congregations split from Mennonite Brethren. Molotschna Evangelisch Mennoniten Bruderschaft and the congregation in Altena were the most important congregations of the Evangelisch Mennoniten Gemeinden. It remained a grouping in Paraguay. In the American places Henderson, Nebraska, and Mountain Lake, Minnesota, related congregations were founded which later became known as the Evangelical Mennonite Brethren. In 1926 the total membership including children of the combined Mennonite congregations in the Molotschna was 15,036, of the Mennonite Brethren 2,501, and the Evangelical Mennonite Brethren 810, a total of 17,347. Shinsi Mennonite Church was a daughter of Lichtner Peterschigen Mennonite Church, most residents of Liebner being members thereof. Kirchlich Mennoniten was a term for those Mennonites without further designations such as Mennonite Brethren. Kryma Mennonite Brethren in Ukraine had no connection to Mennonite Brethren. The so-called Kronswide dialect also was spoken as the minority dialect in Chortitza. Kronswide was a place among the Chortitza-Frisian group. A situation of majority and minority was the case in Molotschna colony, where the Frisian Mennonites settled in Rudnawide, consisting of 7 villages. Kryma Mennonite Brethren were church of people from Molotschna and related to Klein Gemeinde founded on Crimea. Its first congregation in the United States was at Gnadana, Kansas. Klein Gemeinde Mennonites are present in Belize and Tamaulipas inter alia. In Alexandertal, also called the Mennonite settlement of Alt Samara in Russia, there were Mennonites from West Prussia who came from the area of the Great Werder east of Gdansk and from the Grodans lowlands further upstream of the Vistula. Most of the 19th Mennonite immigrants to the United States from Russia, Prussia or Poland joined the General Conference Mennonite Church. The descendants of the Mennonites of Dutch origin who came via Prussia in 1874 in 1955 largely constituted the membership of 6 General Conference Mennonite congregations. Among them there were churches at Beatrice, Nebraska, and Newton and Whitewater, Kansas. The descendants of the Dutch who came via Prussia and South Russia, arriving in America in 1874, constituted the major part of 70 congregations. This was the largest cultural group in the General Conference. Those congregations were scattered all over the West. Many were located in Kansas, Minnesota, and Canada. Alexander Wohl Congregation at Gersel and Hofmannsee Congregation at Inman, Kansas, were 2 of the original settlements in the United States, from which came a number of younger congregations. The descendants of the Dutch who came via Prussia and Polish Russia in 1874 now largely constituted the membership of 11 congregations. Among them were Gnadenberg at Elbing, Johannessel at Hillsborough, and churches at Canton and Pony Rock, Kansas, and Mano, Oklahoma. The first members of the Zion Mennonite Church General Conference Mennonite here, organized in 1883, came from the area near Elbing, West Prussia. The Mennonites settling in Hillsborough originated from Molotschna Settlement, Russia General Conference, Mennonite Brethren, and Kryma Mennonite Brethren groups from Polandia-Anestal, and a few from Prussia Brudetal. Among the Rosenauter Mennonites were direct immigrants from Noidwardowski-Tegenhof in Poland. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting phonology and exploring its implications in greater detail. Werdersch has alveolar R, like Eastern Low Prussian. Werdersch has, at least in some words, long US short U and long IS short I. In Huguden, in originally open syllables before K and X, a became. Werdersch has shortened U before gutturals. It has for High German, English through. Werdersch had a in the closed syllable before L as O. Let's now zoom in on list of isoglosses within Gross-Marienburger Werder Uri Malbuski and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. List of isoglosses within Gross-Marienburger Werder Uri Malbuski mostly as yon loss in long O is shortened before lintel. Umlaut lacks in words such as final null loss in endless of n in hun before fricatives R, L, M, N and G. And so on verses, etc. And so on verses, it shortening of to I before vela shortening of to U before velazi, E and R becoming E, A and or respectively. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into Molotschna-Plautdietsch. Molotschna-Plautdietsch is descended from Werdersch. In originally closed syllables excluding before original R, L and L, E is given as front vowel A. In contrast to Nehrungisch and Chortitza-Plautdietsch, it and Molotschna-Plautdietsch have High German O as O, and no shortened U before P. In less conservative varieties, the nucleus of words such as heat has begun to fall and further dissimulate itself from its off-glide. American speakers from the earlier Midwestern settlements sometimes have a raised allophone of words, such as ik. Molotschna speakers in the United States of America from the original late as settlements often lack an off-glide in some OA forms, but do have off-glides in other OA forms, e.g. Obeid work versus Vogelfall, cook, and book. Molotschna speakers from Mexico with the traditional Molotschna dialect, though a form retained the original off-glide in words like fogel fowl. Molotschna-Plautdietsch has palatalization given as C and, which probably used to exist in West Prussia as well. Nuremberg colony has palatalization like in Molotschna colony. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore grammar through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Werdersch has the preterite forms kam and nam. Like Mundart de Ostgebiets, it has dumits, meaning you have to. Now, let's dig deeper into Molotschna-Plautdietsch and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within. Molotschna-Plautdietsch uses dative case, but not accusative case. Dative has spread to neighboring Minnow colony. In Latin America, dative forms mostly are used in Plautdietsch. Speakers from Fernheim use most consistently dative for accusative, though having better knowledge of Standard German than other Latin American speakers of Plautdietsch. Molotschna-Plautdietsch has for them. Molotschna-Plautdietsch has the formal address using the pronoun of the third person. Molotschna-Plautdietsch has infinitive and plural, both ending with. For verbs with two preterite forms, Molotschna-Plautdietsch mostly uses the velar form with o. It has the velar stem vowel of Dutch and a limited number of palatal preterite forms. Molotschna-Plautdietsch has for the infinitive have. Get ready for a thought-provoking discussion as we delve into in Europe and its impact on our understanding. The congregations of Flemish Mennonites in the area of the Weichselder were Ellerwald, First en Werder, Hubuden, Ladikop, Rosenort, and Tiedenhagen. Olverfeld and Feinstorf had a congregation of Frisian Mennonites. There were daughter settlements of Molotschna in Ukraine. As we progress, let's zoom in on Russia and examine its role in shaping our overall narrative. Molotschna-Plautdietsch dominates the Plautdietsch of those having remained in Russia late. In Russia there were Molotschna daughter colonies, like Noy Samara and Orly Otter in Turkestan province and Davlikanovo in Ufa province. Nuremberg colony in Russia was mainly settled from Molotschna and less from Chortitza. Plautdietsch in Slavgorod and Znamenka in general showed more features of Molotschna-Plautdietsch than of Chortitza-Plautdietsch, though having settled by both Molotschna and Chortitza settlers. Most prevailing phonological features within Altai are related to Molotschna. Originally primary features of the Chortitza variety, Bright versus Molotschna Brut Bride and Heis versus Whose House or the palatalist K in it Molotschna Ikai and since Molotschnakin's children, became predominant features in Altai. Near Pavloda, Omsk and Minnesinsk, there were mixed Molotschna-Chortitza colonies. As we progress, let's zoom in on North America and examine its role in shaping our overall narrative. Mennonite migrants to the United States in the 19th century mainly originated from the Molotschna colony and settled in the Midwestern U.S. This group expanded into the Central Valley of California, but never formed a large Mennonite community there. In 1874, Mennonites from the Molotschna region settled around Wichita, Kansas. These settlers originated from the Krimmer Mennonite Brethren, Alexander Wall, so-called Prussian Mennonites, and Volhynia Mennonites. The Alexander Wall, Mennonite Brethren, and General Conference Mennonites are all moderate Molotschna denominations in central Kansas. Roslyn Burns. Contrasting Spaces in Plautdietsch, Language Variation and Change, 2021, page 11. Within the United States, Molotschna descendants founded several universities. Mennonites founded Fresno Pacific University, as well as Bethel College and Tabor College in Kansas. Rosenort-Gemeinde, a partly Plautdietsch-speaking community in Canada, mainly stemmed from the immigration of adherents from Prussia, Ukraine, and the USA. In Manitoba, Canada, the East Reserve had a minority of its Mennonites originating from Molotschna. In the Uz, about 800 Mennonites from the West Reserve immigrated to northern Mexico, most of whom were Canadian Sommerfelder or Klein-Gemeinde Mennonites. Thus, Molotschna-Plautdietsch is now spoken in Mexico. The Plautdietsch spoken in Mexico, Bolivia, and Texas differs from that spoken farther north. In western Texas, there are approximately 6,000 speakers of Plautdietsch. Many speakers of Plautdietsch show main features of both Molotschna-Plautdietsch and Chortitza-Plautdietsch. Mennonites of central Kansas, California, Nebraska and Oklahoma often maintain ties. In the 20th century, Canadian Molotschna Mennonites arrived in Mexico and founded the Jaggies colonies in Mexico. Phonological differences exist between the Plautdietsch of Catholics and Mennonites in Canada's Saskatchewan Valley. These include for the phoneme Yiwiwas and Pete horses for Mennonite speakers. Catholic speakers use traced to Ukraine. Lexical differences also exist. They have and for e and u. However, the distinct features of Plautdietsch of Catholics do not sum up to a separate variety or at least cluster of varieties as opposed to clustering concerning specific features. The Catholic group shares several other phonological features with some Mennonite speakers, including the realization of u as rather than and the absence of pre-vela fronting and any metathesis in final ren. They have a categorical use of the aforementioned e. Furthermore, the monophongal realizations of e as and o as well as their realization of e as is idiosyncratic. The non-distinctive features of Plautdietsch of Catholics include, for example, in the word Jonin, realization of ear before velas, with non-fronted realizations, e.g., between vowels, and realization of ui in the word forgavepal, as it has Jenin including e instead of Jonin with. Plautdietsch of Catholics has a non-fronted realization of o before velas. Now, let's shift our focus to in South America and embark on an intellectual exploration of its various dimensions. In Paraguay, Molotschna-Plautdietsch is spoken in Newland Colony and Fernheim Colony. Some residents of Fernheim Colony and Tres Palmas Colony have Molotschna ancestry. Molotschna-Plautdietsch is the dominant Plautdietsch variety in Fernheim Colony. Friesland Colony was founded by people moving from Fernheim Colony. In Brazil, Santa Catarina and Rio Grande do Sul have residents of Molotschna origin. Molotschna-Plautdietsch is also spoken in southern Brazil. The denomination Flemish Mennonites was predominant in the Uri Mulberski, the denomination Frisian Mennonites in the Uri Elbelski. Later groups of settlers had more predominant representation of Frisian Mennonites from more southerly Werder areas. Let's now enter the realm of modern Mennonite congregations and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. Evangelical Mennonite Conference is a denomination of Molotschna origin limited to Canada. More than half of its churches are in Manitoba Province. Mennonite Brethren are a denomination originating from Molotschna. Mennonite Church United States of America has more members of Molotschna rather than of Chortitza origin. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.